Hey everyone, how's it going? I'm Groff, and today on the Untrained Ear, we are going to be talking about the brand new JID album, God Does Like Ugly. God Does Like Ugly is the fourth studio album by American rapper JID, this following up his very ambitious project that was previous released, The Forever Story. This album, right off the rip, touts a very sizable production team in addition to JID overseeing everything. This in the manner of about 40 different producer credits across the 15-track spread. And right off the rip, one thing that is extremely impressive about this is the idea that JID was able to really craft a coherent sonic identity while including all of these hands in the basket, so to speak. This album maintains such a stellar pace and it emphasizes his strengths as a rapper and truly how he has matured as a hip hop talent. JID is definitely in form on this album with zipping verses, double and triple entendres. He has remarkable cadence and a knack for flow switch ups and mix ups. Truly, across all of the tracks, he really does build on everything he's been known for previously and introduces some new ideas into the mix. There is also a very ambitious feature list with this project, and even a slightly controversial include with the rap duo CLIPSE, who are known oppositional forces and entities to Drake. Drake is obviously connected to J. Cole, and J. Cole is JID's industry plug. So there's that too. While initial critical reception of this album has been kind of low, I think it features some of JID's best work lyrically, and he continues to deliver in the realm of cadence and improve on that. And I think that from everything that he was involved with in the creation of this album, it was only a step forward, at least from what I've seen. JID also takes the step of flexing his vocal chops across this album, even more so than he has previously. And I think this really showcases him as a multifaceted talent in the industry, something that's very rare, especially when it comes to artists that are traditionally more specifically rap hip hop lent, like JID. In terms of track breakdowns, I really wanted to start off talking about Work, which is the first single that we got to kind of glimpse at for the release cycle. The production style here is clearly trap infused, like dance banger type of track. You have vocal samples that lace the background as a tension builder. And then on top of that, there's this teeter totter of synth that seems to replicate basically an ambulance siren. You get other dances of keyboard and synth elements, and it's all kind of splayed under this very zippy drum line. And finally, there are literal piano power chords that are played as well across the background. And all of this kind of collaborates to create this very epic sonic cadence. And I think there's just no other way to put it with this track. The lyrics are amazing, as per expected with JID, completely unfathomable. He speaks on his critics and his intention to just continue to work. He doesn't want to pay much attention to the negativity. There's an ominous bar here as well that I found really interesting. And there were more hints across this track and the album on whole that might be alluding to this idea of JID really trying to step out on his own and break away from relying on the influences of his connections in the industry up until this point. You have this line though, right? Which is, "So I get that, got a kickback, watch a person let Rome burn like a lit match." So you have the idea that the aftermath of Kendrick versus Drake is here, and JID is alluding to the idea, I think, that he's ready to take a step and move in and claim some territory. The idea that when you have kind of a breakdown of society or a breakdown of the established quo, that sometimes people are ready to step up and take up turf where a king has fallen, right? Or an emperor. So definitely an interesting line there. And then also you have JID paying lyrical homage to Clips across the track, which is definitely kind of a no-no in Drake's book. So that was also a move for sure. At the end of the day, I think this track is a mover, it's a banger, and it was an excellent opening to the release cycle for this album. Walking into Community, I think what you have is a track that's really written with intent. You have a very ominous vibe sonically across this track, where you have these electric guitar riffs that set the rhythm while keyboard dances in the background. You add in a choir and female vocal samples that kind of croon throughout the track. And what you get is this very ghostly backdrop for JID, Pusha T, and Malice to begin to get to work on. JID really opens this track up swinging, addressing one of the biggest questions about this album and some of his lyrics, I think, pretty directly, where he says, "I don't give a fuck about no industry beef. Ain't nobody give a fuck when Tay was dead in the street." This is alluding to the idea that at the very top, wearing the crown, that can shift all the time. And all the focus on that can really distract and detract from maybe some of the aligned goals that everybody in the hip hop world should really be having. The real problems, right? The death in the streets from which this culture originates, which is a severe problem that's still ongoing even now. And I think Pusha T and Malice really hammer in and hone in on this. You have bars like the Malice bar, right? "My ghetto's not your culture. People really die here." I think this line is super cutting. It's meant to stop you in your tracks. I mean, it certainly stopped me. Mouse is really saying people don't understand what it's like to come from this world. I think this track is super poignant and stark. I really want to talk about the track VCRs, especially from the production angle. The acoustic strings here, all the strings in general, are such an awesome inclusion. The guitar arpeggios really complement the violin strings, and the bass guitar is kind of the main rhythm setter. I really love this choice instead of using 808s or some of the typical production elements you would hear in a hip hop track. I think it really grounds the track in something physical and tangible. JID really doubles down on this track, talking about problems across the hip hop community. And there's this line I really found interesting. "But the plot twist is people done made it out the 6." Now, this, I think, is a double entendre, because while it's true that JID is from Zone 6 in Atlanta, there's also this idea that this could be a reference to Drake, right? Because Drake is the 6 god. This idea that maybe JID really is trying to buckle down and establish himself separate of these industry connections that he's beneath, right? Then you have this other line: "I ain't do this shit alone, I make it on. I got all this on my dome as I write more sentences." This really had me again thinking about double entendre, the notion that this album really could piss off Drake, especially, and then by proxy J. Cole, because of the feature with Clipse and because of some of the lines we're dropping about not needing the extra support. I think JID is aware that it's a dangerous step to take, but he's willing to make it. I could be reading into this a little too much, but I really am getting this sense from the album so far lyrically. Coming into the track Skate, I think this is another track that I'm just absolutely blown away from a production standpoint with. The pace is very fast. You have booming elements in the mix. There are synth traces, which is a true callback to the 2000s era R&B bangers that we're rolling out. You have vocal reverb across multiple of the features that really dramatizes the track well. The song also knows how to get into these quiet moments and hit you with a little bit of piano to regroup tension and pay the track off again when bringing the mix back in, which I thought was great for the longevity of the track. The nostalgia elements are clearly intentional because the track is making a lot of allusions to roller rinks throughout it. And for those of you who maybe weren't alive or aren't aware, in the 90s and early 2000s, a truly fun way that you could have spent a Friday night was going to a roller rink. Oftentimes while you were doing this with your friends, you would skate around in a circle and they would be playing radio hits, often in the R&B genre, under the dancing strobe light mixture. In the early 2000s, CIARA was particularly popular to include in the mix of artists that would play at these rinks. So her inclusion on this track as a feature also, to me, hammers that in, and CIARA is also just a great artist. So fascinating, nice nostalgia slammer. I think I really like Skate. With Nobu, you get the return of the very gorgeous string play, mostly featured through acoustic guitar arpeggios. You get these keyboard chords that are very nice as well, and overall, it's just this very lo-fi production style. The Jessie Reyez feature really slays. She has a very choppy yet sultry vocal and rap style that fits this track super well. And also, JID does some crooning on the track, and his voice paired with Jesse's is very excellent. It's a nice tandem that scratches this very lo-fi vocal itch that I think Drake has tried to hit in some of his past work. The difference here being that JID actually has a singing capability and doesn't need as much auto-tune support on his vocals. He was even able to flex some vocal tricks in the mix here, which to me makes me wonder if he might have been in Choir Kid or something. It was pretty cool to listen to and definitely stepped up a lot from the little bit of crooning that we were hearing on Forever Story. I really liked this. Up next, you have K-Word. This track is really interesting. The acoustic guitar strings are back again. This time, though, the aesthetic is very different. You get this very roiling production with the 808s imitating a heartbeat that is underlaid across the track. And then you have violin strings that jitter in the background. There's a choir swaying. This track breathes life and personifies the character of Karma, literally vocalized with lines in the track. She is a new enemy that JID feels like he may be dancing with. This is a concept that he's kind of alluded to across the whole album. It's a proclaimed resolution to accept the outcome of this move that he's made. There's this line in the Pastor Troy chorus that lands just before the meat and potatoes of the track gets started that I think really defines all of it. Karma's got you good, homie's got you beat. I think this is the true resolution of JID and his real sentiment. The connections are only going to carry him so far and not allow him to escalate to that next tier. It's time to put his fate in his own hands, in Karma, which is fickle, and it can really tilt either way. An idea that JID has not shied away from saying could come back to bite him across the album. But I think JID wants to be associated with the caricature of Karma and the idea of Karma. And I think it's a cool way for him to kind of rectify himself taking this next step in his career. Fantastic track. Production is amazing, inspired, and creative. I think probably my favorite from an artistic perspective on this album. I chose 6 tracks to break down in this analysis, but the truth is that every track on this album has some very deep, sonically strong intention and is laced with masterful delivery. Not nearly talked about enough is the diversity of hip-hop sounds that JID displays across this project, and he knocks each of them out of the park. You got the old school hip-hop banger. You've got R&B ballads. You got trippy psychedelic trap music. You've got power hip-hop. You've got instrumental rap. Each time, he's demonstrating mastery, cohesiveness, and I think true vision. It's a tall task to follow up a project like The Forever Story, a concept album with drive and groundbreaking motivation, but JID pulls it off, and he does this with a pure demonstration of mastery over hip-hop. So I'm going to make a bold statement that I'm willing to plant my flag on. JID has demonstrated talent, vision, and execution with this project, enough so that I think he needs to be bolstered up above the rank of up and coming, a title that he's perennially held for about a decade at this point. I think JID is here. He's better than the vast majority of anyone else in the industry right now. And when it comes to these 3 elements, I don't think there are very many rappers who can hold a candle to him. When it comes to my rating for this album, I'm giving it a Tapital 10.